Hi, family. Welcome to another brand new episode of Life Matters with Anu Adidire. I'm super excited to have you on the show, and I'm grateful to God for bringing us thus far as we round up the month of August. August has been one kind, but we thank God because we are alive, and God has been a great sustenance and great help to us, and He has always been our helper from ages past. So from my previous video before now, I shared how your girl has been in a tight spot when it comes to like creating content, how to make sure that we come week in, week out, and we share amazing conversations with you. And when I said doing my second podcast, which is just Let's Talk with Anu, I think it just helped me to see that sometimes when you feel like you have everything figured out, not every time, it doesn't matter what you are figuring out or what you figured out. Sometimes you just need to take a step back and ask yourself, are you actually impacting? Are you actually giving your best? And I think that was the question that I had to ask myself during the course of the month, from last month, from July. I had to ask myself, am I really impacting? Am I really giving that best that I really want to? And I almost questioned myself and doubted myself, but I had to remember why I started. And it just shows that even sometimes when you're going through different phases in your life, you're able to sit down, re-strategize, and ask yourself, oh, okay, how am I able to do things better? How am I able to go from one side of the coin to another? So yes, that's one way to look at it. So today we'll be talking about something very interesting. My guest is going to be coming very soon. I just wanted to show you the topic for today. The topic for today is music excellent growth with Pelumi Ogedengbe. And the reason why we're having this conversation is I have seen over the years, I've been with friends. I have had friends of mine that are musicians, that are singers, and I've seen them struggle one way or the other. I've seen them even talk about what they call this thing. I've seen them talk about issues that affect them as Christians, as musicians, and stuff like that. So my guest just joined us in today, and he'll be sharing his experience. He's a musician, he's also a project manager, and so many other hats that he wears. But ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together, drum your bell, ring your bell. Where's my bell? I have a bell I use. Okay, just before I bring you my bell. So, yay! I have my CAC mini bell. Welcome my guest, Pelumi.
Thank you.
Hi,
Thank,
Pelumi.
thank
How
you.
you
I'm
doing?
fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. First of all, my apologies for being late. I
You're very,
was.
very late. You're going to sue you for how
I'm
many
sorry.
thousand? How many $1,000 should we sue in people? They're going to sue you. Like we're not even going to hold it back. They're going to sue you.
I'm so sorry. I've been so I mean, like I was discussing with you yesterday, right? I've been, in and out of so many meetings. It's been a very busy period. So I was actually just jumping off a call because another thing I do on the side is kind of help, well, to give back really is to help people with the whole career journey. So I'm usually stuck in calls typically a lot after work, but I mean, I enjoy it, so no regrets at all.
That's amazing. So I was sharing with people that being someone that grew up in church, I've known everything and anything church all my life. Till now, I still serve in church. Maybe not in the musical side of things. But that's one of the conversations to have. But first off, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what was growing up like for you.
Right. So, well, a little bit about myself. So, yeah, I'm Pelumi. I'm a drummer. I play at one of the Redeemed churches here in Canada. I'm also typically very involved in working with other ministries that might have events. I'm also typically involved, with working with artists that might have projects, that they're working on. I've been drumming for, wow, for as long as I can remember, because so how my journey started was I have older brothers, right? My immediate older brother, for example, is 5 years older than me. My oldest brother is 8 years older than me, and they were also very involved in music, especially early on. My oldest brother is still very involved in music. So all I remember back then, which is kind of, very similar to my nephew, who is what, 3 years old now. I remember back then when I was young like that as well, when my brother or someone, whoever was, on the drums, then I would just go at church and just stand right next to them. And, I remember, for especially as a kid, I was absorbing everything that I was seeing. So, and, so I would go back home with, if you remember, all our mom's 555 cups, the typical stainless steel cups, the pots, the pot covers were my symbols, the pots itself were my toms. That's really how my journey started. And then when the time came and I was of age and my parents could get, us instruments in the house, I didn't really have to struggle to learn because I just absorbed so much from growing up and watching people play. And so that's really how my journey started. I since then I've always played at church. I grew up as a Baptist before separating out to find, I guess, more connection. Not that there was anything bad with Baptist, but I needed, a bit more connection with the word. So I was able to then, go out to other churches. And I've always been in the choir. But for me, right, it's more than just being in the choir. If I'm not connected to the ministry, if I'm not connected to the word, I'm not joining the choir. So for me, that was always my thing, because like, for example, myself and Anu, we attended a church in Nigeria called Harvest House Christian Center. I remember I was at the church for 6 months before I joined the choir, and I was fine with it. Right, I was okay with it because I was feeding off the altar. And for me, that was just as important as joining the choir to be a part of the music ministry.
Shout out to Pastor Bimini Buddha for teaching. So
Absolutely.
truthful. I remember one praise ablaze, a particular guest minister came, and he said some things like I was not comfortable with my spirit with the statements he made about certain pastors.
Mm-hmm.
And Pastor Gbemini came up and said, I understand that you want to make a statement and stuff like that, but remember that this is not just my flock, right? Like, this is not just my church members. This is a mix and match of a lot of people.
Yep.
And so I wouldn't appreciate. He said in a very, very intentional but respectful way to say, please next time don't do this ever again. That kind of thing. So it was really good.
Yeah.
So I want to piggyback to something you said, which a lot of people struggle with. Me personally, when I joined my husband's church. So back from when I was back in Nigeria, it's always been choir. No other thing. People try to drag me into drama and be like, oh my God, someone actually tried to drag me into going into radio. And I knew I loved radio, but I just felt like there's no balance. I just felt somehow about it. So I didn't join. Looking at it in retrospect, maybe I should have just joined that time and had that experience. But it was actually really, really good. So I remember then when we'll have like choir rehearsals and stuff like that. I'll be in church. Sometimes we have choir rehearsals twice a week. From then national. So I would always known myself being a choir person. I would always have tons of albums. Oh my God. Tons. And I feel now I'm now lazy because I don't even have as many albums as I would love. Maybe because of iTunes. You know that time you had to go and buy CD.
Yes.
Like you had to work so hard to get that music. But now it's just the very, very wonderful stuff.
All there, yes.
So when I joined my husband's church, I told myself that, okay, I was going to take time off. No point rushing. Even when I got to Canada, I wasn't even in choir for the first 6 months or until like 2015, a couple of years after, that's when I fully joined the choir. But when I joined my husband's church, like 4 or 5 years after, I told myself, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to, before I joined the choir. And a lot of my church members from my like pre-marriage church felt like, marriage has swallowed your ministry. And it was a lot of conversation that I had to say, see, right now I'm just taking my time to actually just enjoy the atmosphere. I want to understand what this church is about. I want to know, because where I'm coming from was a mix and match of contemporary Niger, any kind of genres of music. But
Mhm.
since I've known the church, I see them do most of CCM style of, and also I'm very sorry, but CCM very boring to me. Like, it's just the same in my hair. I love black gospel. Like
Absolutely.
I am
Same here.
all, like, I remember when I just got to Canada, I actually was in a Caribbean church, and oh my god, once we start that praise break, it's just woo! So I'd always loved it. So going to a Nigerian church, it was just more upbeat, but at least you're familiar with people and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So I wanted to piggyback to something you said, where you said when you first joined Harvest House, you weren't to inquire for the first 6 months. Now, why is it a struggle? And I see it everywhere, where most people that are into music, that are into choir, once they join a new church, they just feel like I don't have any sense. That's how I feel. I don't have any sense of who I am outside this thing. So automatically I have to join.
Mhm.
Why do you think that happens to most people, that we can't just even just come in and say, and you know, low key, the pressure was on even from the choir members in church, like low key, like they were expecting that you are here, you're supposed to join choir and stuff like that. And I kept telling everybody that I'm just taking my time. I'm just taking my, like, I naturally do not jump, especially when I come to new churches. I don't just jump into choir or what department or this department, but
Yeah.
I'm able to kind of balance myself to say, okay, this is what I like, this is what I want to do, this is what I don't want to do. But in your case as a drummer, you would personally, I want to be itching to, like, oh, the drums and stuff like that. So do you think it's a wise thing for both singers and instrumentalists to do that? Or do you think that it was just a personal preference for each person?
Well, I think it's a mix of things, right? There is the part where, of course, maybe I don't want to speak on behalf of singers, but I can speak from an instrumentalist standpoint. Your body's itching, like you want to play. It is what I've known the longest in my life, and for most musicians, it's the same way. So not playing, right? It's like I need to get my hands on something, right? But I think while while, and I say it's a mix of things, because also it's very, I know, we probably can't stress how important it is to serve in church, right? The Bible teaches a lot about service, right? So I wouldn't necessarily even fault us for itching, but I think it's very important that we're itching for the right reasons, right? Are you itching because you can't wait to serve the Lord with your gifts? Or are you itching because you can't wait for people to see your gifts, right? Um, if that's all you're itching for, that's kind of all your reward, right? And it's biblical, right? So I think that's probably the most important piece. It's okay to itch, but are you itching for the right reasons? I think it's super super critical, and it takes a certain level of awareness, right, on mindset level, but more so on a spiritual level, to be able to take a step back and say, okay, I'm itching to play. However, first of all, am I feeding from the altar, right? Am I feeding from the altar? Am I connected to this ministry? Do I stand for what they stand for, right? Um, and I think it takes that spiritual awareness to be able to look at things holistically before then making that decision. So for example, in my church now, whenever musicians show their interest in joining our church to minister alongside us, right? My choir director, when I speak to the choir director, a music director, to tell me, tell the person to attend first, right? Tell the person to just attend first. It might take a month, right, before we even get back to the person. It might take 2 months Let certain person even attend, get a feel of the church, not just be, not to just, so that we're not
Not
just,
like you're transferring
yeah, yeah,
like
because
a
yeah, exactly, because
Messi transferring to
yeah,
PSG.
exactly, because the truth of the matter is that, you know, we because the truth of the matter is that, like, it's not just like, it's just not any band. This is not a rock band that we're just going out there to play gigs. That's different. This is a whole different ball game, and so I feel like those things are always super critical to take a step back and look at, for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's also important that you just take a step back to actually understand the style and the should I say power behind whatever is going on in that church. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you join churches and you're like, oh my god, I really love their choir.
Mhm.
Then you're just watching from a distance and you're seeing, how is this, like when I breathe or I smell what they call it, you know, when people are fighting but they're on stage singing.
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe I'm very
Yes.
different, but you can, because I sing, I can feel your
Energy.
attitude to each other. Like when
Yeah.
people are like singing and they're rocking
Yes.
together, I can, but when you're singing and you're like, no, I know that I personally, except if God wants me to just go and join that choir, I know that that's
Yeah.
your place for me, because
Yeah.
I know that I will be front. I'll come out and tell you that it can't work if you say that you're working for God and you're doing that. So
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. Don't just jump into a choir group. And you know, most of the time when you tell them to wait and you don't get back to them for like 3, 4, 5, 6 months, they always fade off. For the
Yep.
ones that are not serious, most of them
Yep.
just fall off at the wayside and they're
Yep.
like, ah,
Yep.
it doesn't look like these people
Yep.
really want me.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yep.
whatnot. So
Yep.
my second question is this. I joined a brand new choir. I'm in this music business. Is it a sin for me to play gigs outside church? Because my pastor has told me several times that it is important that I serve. The church doesn't pay me. I'm just giving a typical, from an instrumentalist perspective.
Mhm.
So I do all these rehearsals at home. I give it my best. I buy all this application and software to kind of be better for myself. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, the church is telling me I can't go play outside, but that's where money is coming from to sustain me. So how do I balance or cope with this?
My dear. You see, this issue of, you know, money and the music ministry is very, very is very, very critical, right? Is it's a big, big, big discussion. And you know, I have a few, you know, sentiments towards it. So in this case specifically, right? I don't think it's bad, right? The better approach that you want to go about is, or what I apply, what personally I apply that has been working for me personally, right? Different people will have different approaches to this, right? My priority is my service, like my service to God. The house where I'm serving, that's always my priority, right? Do I gig outside? By the special grace of God, man. And do I collect money? Of course. But see, oh God, by the special grace of God. But two things. Number one, my music director is aware of it. Number one. And you know, also the kind of places I make sure that I find myself in, I also think is very critical, because again, we're dealing with deep spiritual things here. And especially as a musician, we're playing right in the devil's alley, if you really think about it, right? Um Lucifer was the skilled agent, you know, the skilled angel in or the skilled you know, one in the music ministry, right? So as playing right in the alley. So where we expose ourselves to, I think, are also very, very critical. But one, again, my music director is aware of this. And so say for example, I have a gig coming up in 2 weeks, right? But you know, you know, it turns out that maybe pastor has requested for me or my music director specifically requested for me to be at church, right? That is my priority, right? I will have to then work out a plan to get somebody else to fill in for me on that gig. Typically, that's what I do, right? I prioritize my place of service. However, again, if where if where I have the gig or what the gig is for, if it's like a big event that we've been planning for weeks and everything, I'm able to adjust those priorities as well and let my music director know, hey, ma'am, this is what is going on. These people have, we've been planning this for weeks. It's a big event they're having, blah 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 blah, right? Because I don't want to disappoint them after having this series of
Yeah,
rehearsals.
because your word is still your bond, whether you're in
Exactly.
church or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. But I think, very importantly is that communication and understanding with whoever your music director is, right? Being open enough to let them know, hey, this is what is going on. I will not be able to be at church because at this date, on this date, because of these reasons, right? Being open about it, at least for me, it has worked.
Thank you very much. And I feel like it's very important that one is actually open enough to say, have that conversation. But I feel like there's so much manipulation from a lot of people. I've seen I've seen people get big opportunities in the music scene, and because of the way, two things in there. So I always believe that if your pastor says something, your pastor sees something or says God told him something, I believe God is also your father and God can also speak to you about that particular thing.
Absolutely.
But the other part is also the selfish interest of a man, being that you're going to leave our church, blah 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 blah. You're the only one we call every time. You're the only reliable person. You know what? I'm going to make sure that you. So there can be manipulation in that
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
So I feel like understanding God for yourself when it comes to even gigs, and your service is very important, so that
Yeah.
when situations like that come up, you can politely say, "Oh, sir, I'm so sorry. I know that you really want me to be here, but it's not possible for me to be here because of A,
Mhm.
B, C, and D. And if it's if it warrants that it doesn't align for you and the ministry, then you ask yourself, who do you want to serve? Is it God or a man, and that kind of
Mhm.
thing. So I
Yeah.
think that's where you kind of weigh the points. Now,
Right. And sorry, I know if I may, so I was just thinking about thinking back again at your previous question about finances and music ministry. See, realities are that in Canada, my dear, especially for us immigrants, if you're trying to really, make something. Well, first of all, let me retract. I'm not. This is my land. I just don't want to put immigrants as if we're at some disadvantage. No, I don't like to see it that way. Quite frankly speaking, but truth of the matter is that coming from from outside, from a different country, you want to come here and succeed, and having the financial muscle, right? Obviously, aside being spiritually grounded and all of those things, having the financial muscle is one of the critical things that you need to have, right, to be able to kind of push your dreams here. If you are doing music full time there, and you say that's your only source of income, there's a very high chance that you'll be very hungry. So I just want to put it out there. Please find yourself, like, hone your skills musically, but also hone your skills on a professional work level. Get yourself a good paying job. So, because for example, one of the dreams that a lot of us have is want to own a studio, want to own our own gear. Those things cost money. Hello, dollar is not
bro,
is not raining. Dollar is not raining from
let's not talk about gear.
you
Like,
know, dollar is not raining from you won't go to Long and McQueen now and tell them the peace of the Lord be with you. So you see this montage keyboard I'm looking at. The Lord has said you should give me. No, they will chase you out. You know what I'm saying? So I would just put it out there like, yo, find yourself a good, decent job. Work out a schedule for yourself to ensure that you're constantly building your skill on the music level as well. And I think that's really the way to go about it. If you want, to so that you have that financial stability, and they are not really worrying, oh, church is paying me, church is not paying me, church is, you know.
You know that gear thing. I was still having this conversation with my mom today, and to be very sincere, gear is not cheap. When I break down what camera is and what lenses and platforms that you use to stream, plus your microphone, plus your mixer, when I
Mhm.
there was a day that I think so on your CIBC app, you can put all the things you own on it so that it would have your what's your like your liabilities and your assets.
Yeah,
So as I
yeah,
was
yeah.
getting new gear, I was adding my assets and adding my assets. And I said I went from like a particular amount to a particular, to a particular amount. Me say I fear from.
Ah, it
So when
is.
when people now just say, "Oh, is it not just?" I'm like, "Wow, like, guy,
My
it
dear,
doesn't work that way." Like, and you
at
don't
all.
even though people say, "Oh no, don't worry, just put it on your credit card." Yes, but you have to pay back that
Pay it
credit
off.
card. So, so at the end of the day, what
Yeah,
happens? So
yeah,
for me, I
exactly.
feel like it's like you said, even in Nigeria. I remember that all the musicians and music producers I've had even on the show always have a second stream of income when it comes to music because anything can happen. Look at what happened during the pandemic. There was no party, there was no nothing, and you
Exactly.
have to still pay. Like
Yep,
Epcot will not say there was pandemic.
yep.
Even the mortgage, there was this thing they did in Alberta. I don't know if it was nationwide, but in Alberta where you could for landlords
Defer your
you
mortgage.
can't no for landlords you can't even ask your tenant for rent like
Yeah,
during
yeah.
that
They did that here too. Yeah.
so then they defer mortgage but the truth that you're not deferring that if you're paying 1,000 before
You
you
will,
can't pay
you will still
6,000
pay.
later.
You will still pay
So
it.
what's the point, right? So I feel like it's important for people to have both sides of the coin where you're able to say, you know what, I I I love music, I do music, but this is where the pay has to come from because the bills here are real. And that takes me to my next question. Do you think that serving abroad is different from serving Nigeria? Because a lot of times people complain that people are too lazy, people are too this, people are too that, oh people don't want to serve. And a lot of people have that issue that once people come abroad, it's a little bit more difficult to serve compared to when they were in Nigeria or whatever African country they're from. Do you think, in your experience, do you think that's it? And if it's yes, what do you think we can do better when it comes to people serving in church and when it comes to growth and consistency?
Right. Um. So yes, there are some differences because I've had the opportunity to experience both worlds, and there are a few factors that I can, right off the bat, that I can start to point out to that makes it different. So, for example, when I was in Nigeria, um, at Harvest House, for example, we could rehearse for 4, 5, 6 hours, right? When events are coming up, who's going to dedicate that time to you here, my dear? And there's a few factors to it. Number one is the thing you said, bills. People have bills to pay, right? And here the economy is different, right? You know, you have to pay these bills because the services are being rendered, as opposed to Nigeria that and could not be light at home. You know what I'm saying? Also, another thing is our work structure is very different here. So you find a lot of people, right, who are working jobs that, you know, it's not necessarily 9 to 5. Some people are working on the weekends, right? Those are things that aren't as common or as rampant in Nigeria. Not a lot of people work weekends. Not a lot of people, I mean, some bankers do, but not a lot of people work weekends, right? Here, you don't have to be a banker to work
Even
weekends.
Sundays.
Yeah, even Sundays, right? Ain't nobody
Mhm.
working on Sundays in Nigeria, right? Very, 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 very few people, right? As opposed to here. So the work culture, the work structure or the work culture is very, very different here in Canada. So that's why I feel like it's difficult to find, a group of people, especially at church, that are ready to dedicate 5, 6, 7 hours of their time just at church, right? Rehearsing. That's number one. Number two thing, those are like some of the factors that I see that makes it a little bit different. Now, to your question on consistency, what I think that in order to kind of, make up for that time, because quite frankly speaking, you cannot hit the level of excellence you're trying to reach, right, on a musical level without committing time. You just can't, right? We watch videos of all these guys in the US that, the level of skill that they display is ridiculous. Even on this, even that's number one on this on a physical level, on a spiritual level too. Without spending time in the Word, without spending time knowing more of God, of like the Bible puts it, of looking, or getting more out of that treasure box, right? That treasure that God has set aside. Without looking in there, right, you cannot reach that level of height you're trying to reach. So really, what I think we can do, especially being abroad, because everybody is so busy, people are trying to make ends meet to ensure that you can pay your bills and live a comfortable life, right? It then boils down to, what are we doing at home in preparation? That is where, to be honest, that's what will separate boys from men, right? It is all about the time you commit at home. So the way I see it, right, your practice time is at home, right? Your rehearsal time is the 1 2 hours you get to spend with the entire group at church. So we really should be reaching the level where, we have songs coming up for an event, or we have songs coming up for Sunday. We're coming to church for rehearsal. We're banging them straight on. Five,
And
ten
I
minutes
think
before
that's the
song.
difference between Nigeria and here, because then in Nigeria, because I have a like adopted younger brother like that, and I know that if they send songs out on, like, we're rehearsing on Friday nights, because we don't even do during the day rehearsal because everybody's at work, everybody's
Yeah,
school, so
yeah.
we do rehearsals from 11 to 5, middle of the night.
Exactly.
So when we do rehearsals like that, he has rehearsed like 1 hour from Monday to Thursday. So when it comes for rehearsal, he's just saying, "Oh no, that part you sang is wrong. Oh, this is how you have to do better." Which, looking at what you said, if you don't do that at home, you won't be able to catch all those things
You
during
won't.
the rehearsal
Yeah.
before the performance on
Yes.
Sunday. So I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Exactly. So like that the time we spend at home, really connecting to the songs on a spiritual level, connecting to the song on a technical level with either musicians, or or the band, or even the vocalists. I think that is probably the most critical if we are to hit the heights that we intend to hit. To be honest, that's my take on it. And it's not just because an event is coming up. That's why we should practice. We should set up a schedule that works, even if it's 30 minutes every day to do something. If that's the schedule that works for you, especially if you have a family, you're married, you have to spend time with the wife, with your kids. It's about setting aside that time. It's not really about the large chunks of time or spending 10 hours one day and then you don't practice again for the next 3 months, right? That costs.
Remember, your voice or your instrument goes rusty too,
Yep,
and people don't know that.
absolutely, absolutely. So I think that's super critical.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you, and I feel like for you to get that growth that you want through your experience, even as a musician or a singer or producer, I think that the more you go and sharpen your craft. So like you said, I was having this conversation one day with two other people, and one of the things I said was, I sat out one day and I said, "Oh my God, I'm doing so much. I'm doing so much church work." And, and I felt overwhelmed. And one day I actually said, I'm like, "Okay, Anu, sit down. Take out your pen and write how many hours you actually use for church stuff." So I wrote it out in an entire month. I saw that apart from driving to church and coming back, when it comes to doing work with church stuff, I didn't spend up to 10 hours in an entire month. For that particular month I was talking about, I didn't spend up to 10 hours. So I saw that I was only amplifying the stress. I was not seeing that there were other things that could be factors to the stress. Like, the truth is, if and I think my baby was even a little bit younger then. So imagine me editing to, let's say, 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, and she wakes up and she wants to play for another 4 hours, and I'm now going to church by 7 o'clock. You get, so by the time I'm going to church, I'm already feeling tired because I have not slept well. But the only thing I remember is that it's church stuff that keeps me up all night. So like you said, if we actually say, you know what, 30 minutes every day, maybe just after my devotion, I'm going to sit on the keys and just, that time of devotion can be me and God on the keys. You understand? It can just be me and God on the keys, and you're just playing the keys and you're worshiping and you're writing songs and stuff like that. And you see that it transcends. And I think that's one way people can go from, oh, I don't have time for this, to sitting down and actually saying, you know what, let me actually look at what exactly is happening my entire day, right? Like, if I know that something is for a particular time, I cross that time of that thing, I know that there's nothing that can block, like nothing, except if like an emergency comes up. So if I know that, okay, by 2 o'clock every Saturday, I have to sit down with Pelumi and do drum rehearsals, I know by 2 o'clock, that's the only thing. So I can't complain that I didn't learn the drums, because before 2 o'clock, I myself had to practice my with my sticks, make sure that I've done so many other things as per rehearsal. So for you, what's the average, as a drummer, what's the average amount of hours you have to rehearse every week before you have a performance?
Right. So for me, I typically I try to do at least 3 to 4 hours. I try to do, sorry, excuse me. So practice time on my own, I try to do at least an hour for at least 3 days a week. Typically, that's what I try to do. And again, this is specific to me, right? Because I have considered my own personal schedule. If you, whoever might be listening to this after, if you have, a bit more time to squeeze out on your hands, right, to practice, please feel free to allocate more. But for me, I found that this is what works, just because of my schedule, right? Some other days I'm not able to, because right after work, I'm headed to church for rehearsal, right? But the days that I'm at home, right, I try to do an hour for at least 3 days a week. I found that this is what works. I'm a married man. I have wife to spend time with. Again,
True that.
I'm involved in many other things, right? Involved in helping people with, career talks and, growing the careers as well. So that's another thing I'm involved in. Plus, I have a very, 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 very busy 9 to 5. So I try to do an hour for, sometimes if I'm lucky, I might get more in. But typically for me, I find that what works is 1 hour for at least 3 days a week.
That's amazing. I want to talk about skill versus gift. And because I've heard churches, I've heard people say, oh, just have the gifting, like let's hire this person because this person is good. Oh, once this person that is very talented comes to church, once they see Bro Pelumi coming to the, oh my God, drumming, that's caught fire or whatnot. And everybody has this hype around people's giftings, and but when it comes to this level of skill, I see that a lot of times we compromise. Number two, I see that a lot of times we're more interested in the gifting and skill than their growth as children of God. So how do you think that we can correct that wrong? Because I've seen some people play in church for years, but they can't really tell you that this is what has helped them grow in their 5-10 years in that church. So what would you say will be that balance that we have to put in play when it comes to skill, gifting, and growth as in spiritual maturity?
Um, so I think that's a great question. And again, it's very critical, especially from an instrumentalist standpoint, because it's so easy for us to get carried away. Very, very easy. We are, in quotes, always in the limelight, in quotes. We are always the one that people will be screaming for, whatever, right? So it's very, very easy to get carried away. I just want to, I want to make that known. So if, it's super easy to get carried away, but it's very critical to understand, the reason why you're doing it, right? From the musician standpoint, you must understand the reason why you're doing it. Why are you playing the drums? Why are you playing the keyboard, right? The way I see it, we are facilitators of worship, right? We are leading the general congregation to a place, right? Now, if you are going somewhere and nobody's following you, you're taking a stroll. So it's very important to understand that you are taking people on a journey. So that being said, there are a few things that are critical. Number one, how do you take someone on a journey to somewhere you haven't been yourself? So in the place of worship, again, back to what you're doing at home, right? And again, this is something that, I want to clarify, I'm by no means perfect in this area. Far from it. It's also something I keep telling myself, right? If I'm leading people in worship, if I'm part of that group, facilitating people, right, to get into a place of worship, have I been there? I cannot take you now to Bali. Hello, my sister. I've not been there. You know what I'm saying? So I can't take you there. You know what I'm saying? I can't start telling you, oh, we go here first, we go here first. It's a lot easier to take someone to a place where to take people to a place where you've been before. So that place of worship, that experience with God, that personal connection, that submission before God in the place of worship, you must have been there yourself. And now, while you've been there, maybe through your personal worship session or even listening to worship songs, right? In getting there, what were the things that got you there? So now, taking it down to the technical standpoint and why communication on a musical level with vocalist and the band is super important. And I don't mean communication actually in terms of our gestures that we make, the from the top, not all of that, but in terms of how we bring about this music or this worship
That
together.
spiritual bond.
Yes, that spiritual bond, I think, is so critical. Because from a technical level, am I as a drummer just then trying to show off? Is that what I'm doing? When me I went to that place of worship, is that what I heard that took me to the place of worship? You know what I'm saying? And so that's why it's very important to ensure that, from a technical level as well, from a skill level, we are not distracting people with what we're doing. We have to consider that, okay, to take these people to the place of worship, how are we, passing across that message to them, right? It is very, very, very critical. And again, I want to stress, especially for drummers, we can easily get carried away because it is with our body sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you've learned a new lick, there's every chance that you would want to, spaz
You
around the
shall
drum.
want to put curry time, everything on top of one
You want
simple
to,
song.
you want to. So it's very, very critical. And I find myself as well, falling victim of that. But you see, with constant awareness to the assignment, you start to, take a step back and criticize yourself, or I'm sorry, critique yourself from that standpoint, right? When you listen back to what you had played and said, okay, could this have been distracting to people? And now I'm not saying that there then has to be that balance between simplicity and beautiful music, if you get what I mean. I'm not saying go all simple and just play your 145 and that's it and go home. No, not necessarily. Music is beautiful. It's a beautiful language. The strokes you play on the drums when you choose to play them, the keys, the chords you play on the keyboard, the strokes you play on the guitar or the chords you play on the guitar, they are all part of that journey to taking people to that place of worship. So I'm not saying be boring on your instrument, absolutely not. But make sure that you do it beautifully and you try to apply things at the right time. It will take time with growing, developing, growing in maturity on your instrument to get there. But the most beautiful music out there, for example, Todd Delaney's band, they do that really, really well. Really, really, really well. That's kind of what you should be listening to, and you see just how they go about it. Another band is William McDowell's band, right? For example. So yeah,
That band is
those guys are skilled. Those guys can spaz and
for every string and I think that's where my question came from, in the sense of, do we really, when it comes to, how do I put it? So Pelumi is this talented instrumentalist. Let's say you were in the Bible days, your days was, let's say, David, right? Or Daniel or something, and you used to play it. And the scripture would say David will look for the skillful, like it was always that.
yeah,
But going back to why he did that, was because David himself, it was through instruments that God used him to heal, right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
are we gone past those days where you play some strokes and I get healed, or that has gone into extinction, where it's just for the excitement or for the show, and we don't have that place where you play a chord on the keys and someone says, oh, I had fibroid and it disappeared when I heard
Yep.
that stroke? So are we far from those days, or what's going on right now?
I don't think we are. I understand that the gospel music right now, especially in the church, there's a lot of vibes. There's a lot of playing by vibes, but I still think, especially like, I remember when I was in university one time, I had a roommate who, let's just say he didn't have the closest relationship with God. He was, and he knew it himself, right? He was engaged in a lot of things, right? And I remember he loved music, right? And I remember there was one day we came back from the chapel. There was no altar call, nothing, absolutely nothing. We came back and he was blasting in tongues. Just imagine one of the baddest people in terms of doing doing things of the Gentile. You know what I'm saying? Coming back into the hostel and just praying in tongues. And then everybody was shocked. He prayed in tongues from that afternoon all the way to the next morning. He didn't sleep. He was my roommate, so I know, right? And what healed him or what ministered to him, it was just the choir ministration. Don't let me say it was just. It was the choir ministration. That was the avenue for the Spirit of God to get through to him. What am I trying to say here is the things that we play, the whole journey again that we as the music team are trying to take the entire congregation to, that journey that we are, that bus that we're driving to take people to that place of worship, how we drive that bus is so critical. It's so critical. So it's important for us to know, to understand that assignment, that message you're passing across. And that's why, from a skill level as well, you have to hone your skills. You have to. You can't come and hold mic and be singing off key. Oh, wrong now. You cannot lead me in worship that way. No, I'll be lost. You know what I'm saying? It's like going on a trip. So imagine you're flying to Greece, for example, and you have a terrible flight. There was so much turbulence, and the pilot didn't manage it well. You who are going, but me, I don't know about you. Me, I don't like height. For me, I just want to touch the ground. Let my 2 feet land on the ground. You know what I'm saying? I won't have had a great experience on that trip. I would not. And I would always remember that bad experience, right? And so whenever I want to get back on the plane, I would remember that bad experience. So that's what we should think about it. If you sing off key like that, it's not fair now. It's not nice. You get what I'm saying? And so that's why, on a serious note, it's so important, right? If we think about this thing as we are taking people on a trip, we're taking people on a journey to a place of worship, you have to be excellent in your craft. Excellence in your craft is so critical. You can't, it's not about one or the other. You must be excellent spiritually and excellent in your craft. So for example, this girl Esther Benyogo, I think is her name.
Ben Yogo.
Benyogo, yes, Benyogo on the Voice Nigeria, right? That was what I appreciated the most about her. Yes, she's a Jesus girl, but Frida, if you pack that one aside, hello, on the skill level, she got she has it. Quite frankly
She's
speaking,
that kind of person that you just see that God took his time,
I'm
but it's
telling
not
you,
just God taking his
it's
time in
not.
this person actually, because
It's
apparently this
fine.
is the first time she winning stuff.
It's not.
She had
I've seen
watched
that stuff at church. Yeah, I watched
no,
that. I
she
was like, yeah,
watched she won God's Children Got Talent. There was
yeah,
one Christian one that she had
yeah,
won,
yeah.
and this was just like, you know what, let's just go. And when she hits those notes now, and that's why I appreciate what you said. You don't have to explain that this person has grace,
No,
because once the person opens their mouth,
you
it's
feel it.
just one note. You know in
You know.
every inch of your body that this
Yeah,
person has the Spirit of God. I had
yeah.
a guest on my show. She sang Dwell Here featuring Daniel Ojo,
Hmm.
Kimberly Ade.
Yeah, I know her.
From her
Yeah.
first conversation, I had chills all the I'm like, you're filled with the Spirit of God. Like
Hmm.
I don't have to say anything. I don't have to think twice about it.
Yeah.
You are filled with the Spirit of God, because
Yep.
I could see how passionate, and
Yep.
every tone, every voice, everything she could
It
do
matters. It
just
matters.
who's Jesus. You
Yeah.
understand? So I think I appreciate what you said by have the talent, have that gifting, be skillful, but that place of spiritual maturity, you can't
Yep.
give what you don't have.
Yep. You
If
can.
you're in a place where you're not growing, I would say reevaluate your space in that environment and see, do you have to change your friends? Do you have to change your church? Do you have to, whatever you need to change? But you yourself, like you said earlier, if you don't rehearse, you will not be able to give your best during the general rehearsal. So
Yep.
if your time of fellowship is not also good at home, you can't expect Sunday service to be
Yep.
watering. It's just like you drinking water only on Sunday.
Yep. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
always be thirsty, right?
It's facts, right? It's I so and so that's that. Yeah, that's my take on it. It's very, 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 very critical for us to understand the purpose of what we're doing. If you don't, there's a statement. If you don't understand the purpose of a thing, it's I can't remember that statement.
Abuse is inevitable.
Abuse is inevitable. Yes, right. You must understand the purpose, behind why you are doing it. I think that's probably the most critical thing.
Thank you very much. So I have two more and we're done.
Okay.
My second to the last question is, I think the old mindset of instrumentalists are bad boys. We've always had that from before time began. I don't know if it's still something that is going on right now, but now you're married and stuff like that. Was it a pointer for your wife now when you were talking to her, when you were dating, or when you were in school, that oh my god, he plays the drums, and I tell you, drummers not bad. I think I don't lie. Drummers are like the worst. I can't lie
Oh
to
my
you.
goodness.
So is it a myth, or is it something that is true that you feel like people should do better? And in your own experience, was it a pointer when you were toasting your wife?
When you say pointer, I guess, was she conscious about it? Yes, absolutely. And I've had conversations with, people who are, again, even more mature in this space, right? Than a lot more mature than I am in this entire space. And they've kind of confirmed the same. Again, like if you think about to what I said before, where we're playing, the space we're playing in is a very, very, very peculiar space. just because of, God's love of worship, for worship, right? God's love for worshipers, God's love for music, right? The angels in heaven, they're daily what? Singing. You know what I mean? So God's love for music, it also means that we're in a place where the devil is constantly trying to stop us from delivering on that, right? And so that's why I find that, again, if you kind of think about the whole territory for musicians, with the limelight, the attention, people just get drawn to you because you're a musician, because you're skilled. It's normal. And so we as musicians, what I can say is we have to be extremely conscious of it. Like, we can't just like pack it aside. It's a big issue. Like, I mean, huge issue in the industry. I know so many musicians that, this has been a major, major struggle, right? Um, so what I can say to that, honestly, is very, very important to be conscious of it. It's very, very important to, you know, work in the knowledge of how to ensure that we don't fall into those critical temptations, right? But to answer your question, I do not think that musicians are bad boys or bad girls or anything like that. But it is, I guess we are quite, I would say we're more prone to being exposed and falling to such challenges. I would say that for sure, 100%,
Mm.
right? Because we're dancing right in the face of the devil. It's a battleground there. So we have to be very, very spiritually conscious about it. That's what I'll say.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a myth and also a reality for most people. Especially,
Yeah.
I don't think it's just like an instrumentalist thing. I think it's just if you're struggling in certain areas of your life and you're in the spotlight like that, if you've not dealt with, it's just like Moses. Even though Moses had every tendency to be a great leader, because of anger was still a roadblock for him. He
Hmm.
met it in front. So
Hmm.
if you're dealing with sexual immorality, or you're someone that struggles with pornography or stuff like that, being an instrumentalist will just bring you more to where you'll be more exposed being an
Fact.
instrumentalist,
Fact.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that creating that community where you can talk to people that are far gone for you in the industry, and be able to share and say, I want to grow my spiritual work, but at the same time I'm struggling with this and this, and I think it's very important to say that.
Very, very.
As we wrap up the show, my final question will be: who were your musical influences growing up, and right now, who are your musical influences?
Ay, ay, ay. That is a loaded question. Man, who are my musical influences growing up? So again, like I started my family, my brothers, right? They were the very first people I saw doing it, right? Um, so I would say when I started off in music, they were the people that I looked up to the most. I wanted to know how to play like them. I wanted to, those are the people that I was always looking up to. And then before I, started to get more exposure to a lot more people as well that were that were also in the music ministry. But I would say probably back then I wasn't as aware back then as I am now. I mean, drummers, I probably looked up to people like Tony Royster. Um, I watched a lot of his videos growing up. But I think now I can say, you know, I wow, right now I listen to a lot of musicians, and I do have specific, drummers that I listen to maybe the most, or people that I pay attention to their musicality, the most. So, for example, Jalen Moore, who is Todd Delaney's drummer. I listen a lot to um, um, Mark My Words, who's also William McDowell's drummer. I listen to them a lot again for just how musical they are. Um, there are a lot of drummers. I don't want to kind of bore people with all, all of these names, but there are a lot of them that I listen to. I rinsed out Todd Delaney, over rinsed them out. I've been listening a lot to Tim Bowman and Miranda Curtis. I've been
Fake City
listening,
Music.
yes, Fifth City Music. I've
Woo!
been listening.
Oh my God.
Especially
They
during this,
just make you want to serve
yes,
God.
yes, yes, no
Oh
doubt.
my.
Especially during this whole pandemic, they've been my go-to ministry. I listen a lot as well to Transformation Church worship. I listen a lot to them, and of course my friends around me that are also in music. Even people locally here in Canada. My all-time favorite drummer right now really is Leonard Lewis. He's here in Canada. Not he's not my friend. He's a someone he's someone that that I look up to a lot. I love his musicality, his humility, just his level of skill. His musicality is it's absolutely outrageous, out of this world. That's probably my favorite drummer. A lot of my friends, Paul Akindolie, that plays at my church as well,
Shout out to
absolutely love the guy.
Paul.
Yeah, Pascal, all of these my guys, Ade, and all of these people that I play with, Thomason on the bass as well, D bass, all of these people, I listen to them, I enjoy music with them. So I'll say that the people that I would say influence me the most right now.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, there's so many people. Like as you were naming people, I was naming people on top of my
Yeah,
head. Even
yeah,
in
yeah.
Nigeria,
Mhm.
I think most of my friends are drummers. Like, I think I have very few that are keyboardists. But like
Mm,
because I really love the drums, and I used
mm.
to play around with it when I was younger.
Yes,
So it's something that I believe that every parent should expose their kids to one form of instrument.
absolutely.
It is, I think it's mandatory. If you can teach
Critical,
your
yeah.
children how to swim and do karate, let your kids
Mm,
learn one
for
instrument.
sure.
And the truth is, they are the ones that are the future of the church.
Yep.
And right now, I see a decrease
Mm,
in that particular phase when it comes, because when we're younger, they would always put us in front in choir practice, in learning instruments. But
mm-hmm.
now you rarely see people even let their kids even come for midweek services.
I
So
agree. I agree. I agree a lot
parents,
with that.
your kids are the future of the church. Some
Absolutely.
of us shall go to where our fathers are, but your kids will be the ones doing that. So I think
Yeah.
it's very important. Like for me, exposing, as small as my baby is, I expose her to playing the keyboard at home, even though
Yeah.
she might just be hitting stuff on it. But I
Yeah.
want to imprint it that, girl, you have to be my backup
Yep.
keyboardist
Yep. Yep. Yep.
when we're going on tours, right? So I think it's very important
Yeah.
to do that. Your final words to an aspiring musician out there who is either trying to grow or struggling or in one phase or different phase of their life. What will be your final words to them?
My final words are, take it easy with yourself. Understand the assignments. It Everything takes time, right? Be consistent, be true to your craft, be true to your spiritual growth. Be true to your spiritual growth. Again, there are lots of battles that we face in this industry, especially as a musician, a lot, because again, we're in the limelight. We are, you know, we are exposed to a lot, right? So constantly build your spiritual life, like me as well. I'm trying to ensure that I'm constantly doing that. Um, Everything takes time. If you want to get better, I'm sorry, but there's no two ways about it. You're gonna have to practice. If you don't practice, it's not gonna happen, right? But take it easy with yourself. Be consistent with it. Be consistent with it. And I pray that God will definitely see you through, and bring you excellent success even in this space in Jesus' name.
Amen, amen. Thank you very much, Pelumi. I had so much fun recording this, and I'm sure that people will be blessed when they watch this. So please make
Amen.
sure that you go subscribe to the channel, watch this. It's gonna be live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram on Saturday. This Saturday, the 22nd of August, and also it will be live on the podcast. So please make sure if you're listening on the podcast, please make sure that you favorite this episode. You can follow Pelumi. He always has tips and he's like he said, he helps out when it comes to career development. He's someone that you should watch out for. I'm benefiting. I said benefiting from yesterday. I was sitting down with my stuff throughout night. Yeah, I think it's very important. Like he said, make sure that the gift that God has given you, just like the parable of the talents, you're able to replicate it, you're able to harness that skill, and you're also able to grow in Christ.
Yes.
Till we see you next time on another amazing episode of Life Matters with Anade Dure. Have a wonderful week. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.